The FIFA World Cup round of 32 matches are set, so let's predict these matches. Let's predict which teams will progress to the round of 16. Now, I've talked about all these teams one way or the other, some more in depth so far in this tournament in the group stage. Talk about all these teams one way or the other, and I won't go too in depth in this video about which team is tactically and all this kind of stuff. I won't go too much in depth because it's 16 games to talk about. Later on in the video, or later on in the tournament, when we get to round 16 and the quarterfinals and semifinals, I'll go more in depth as we get closer to the final. And obviously in the final will be very in-depth analysis about why I think which team will win the tournament and all that. So this video was really just a brief overview of what happened in the group stage and then predicting, just based off of who has more talent and who has performed better so far in this tournament, predicting the round of 32. So it won't be, the craziest and most in-depth whatever. We'll do that later on, in the tournament as we get closer to the final. So this video is literally me just predicting which team is better and has performed better and why they'll win. And it'll be pretty quick. I don't want it to be 2 hours long. It'll be, let's aim for 20 minutes. Let's aim for that. So let's dive into it. All right, so I'll cover these games as they appear on the screen, literally from top to bottom. I'll talk about these games in depth. Starting with Germany, Paraguay. Now, neither of these teams really impressed me in the group stage. I think Germany were generally poor against Ivory Coast and against Ecuador. I think Paraguay were just defensive-minded against every team they played. Australia, USA, and Turkey. I wasn't impressed by them either, but off the balance of talent and who's a better team, Germany are just a much better team than Paraguay. They will go through. France and Sweden. Now, Sweden didn't really impress me either. They beat the brakes off Tunisia, yes, but then they got the brakes beaten off them by Netherlands, and then against Japan, they lost that. They drew that game. So I wasn't really impressed with Sweden overall. France, they didn't dominate the games, the matches that they played, but what they did against likes of Iraq, against Senegal, against Norway, who rested all their players, but they're just such a strong team. They're going to progress and beat Sweden, in my opinion. Now, this game, I'm recording this midway through the game. Sorry, scheduling delays. It's been a crazy week. Obviously, the group just ended yesterday, but South Africa and Canada, I've purposely not watched the first half so far. So I purposely left it blank so that I can have a clear mind looking at these two teams. Not really too impressed with Canada, to be honest, as one of the host nations. Obviously, they beat Qatar 6-0 because Qatar has 2 red cards. It's just a walkover game. Drew against Bosnia, didn't really look that strong, and then lost narrowly to Switzerland. South Africa, I'm honestly impressed that they made it here because I didn't really expect too much from them. But good performances against, obviously, they struggled against Mexico in the opener. But against South Korea, I think they played decently. Against Czech Republic, they were good as well. So I will just edge this, honestly, to Canada. I'm going to edge it to Canada. I just think maybe the host nation and the fact that they're home and the fans behind them, maybe that will be enough to push them through and over the edge against South Africa. Morocco, Netherlands, this is probably one of the toughest matches in the round of 32. Like, this is one of the games that you want to see. Netherlands have been one of the more impressive teams in this tournament so far, along with the likes of France, maybe Argentina, of course. Morocco, difficult game against Brazil to open up, but then the performances later on throughout the tournament against Haiti was very, very, very impressive. So I think off the balance of just who has more quality, I think it's very, very close. I think Netherlands and Morocco are pretty balanced in most areas. Where I will give the edge to Netherlands is they have a stronger defense. So I think that might be enough to carry them over the edge and beat Morocco in this match. So I'll go Netherlands in this match. Portugal, Croatia, two teams that I'm really not impressed by. I've talked about Portugal yesterday in my video. I was very, very harsh on them, very, very critical of how they performed in the group. I'm not impressed with how they're playing, even in the slightest. So I don't predict Portugal to be as strong as I thought they would be anymore in this tournament. So I'm not banking on Portugal winning the tournament. I'm not putting that out there anymore. However, Portugal are a better team than Croatia. Even though they've been poor, they're still better than they should be beating Croatia in this. Like, going out in this round would be a disaster. Croatia poor against England, but then beating Ghana, beating Panama. You're supposed to beat those teams. So I'm not too impressed by what they did. I'm going to go with Portugal here. Spain, Austria. I think Austria and Algeria were trying to avoid Spain yesterday. It doesn't really matter. Whoever was going to face Spain was going to lose. Spain haven't really been that great either. Without Yamal and Oyarzabal's brilliance in the second game against Saudi Arabia, I'm not really been impressed. Cape Verde held them to a draw, and then they were held to a draw by Uruguay. I'm not impressed by Spain, but Spain are one of those teams that they get stronger as the tournament goes on, and they're just better than Austria. So, like I said, it's not going to be too in depth. Spain will go through and they will beat Austria. USA versus Bosnia and Herzegovina. This is impressive from Bosnia, by the way, to get this far, to make it out of the group. I do think the journey ends here to the USA. I think USA were very, very impressive against Panama and also against Australia. The rest, stars against Turkey, they lose that game. Not really, that big of an issue. Bosnia, good results in the opener against Canada. Obviously beating Qatar as well. But I'm not really, and holding Switzerland to a draw. But they're not. I don't think they're good enough to beat the US. I think US will have to beat themselves to lose to Bosnia. So USA will progress in this matchup. Belgium Senegal is a very, very tricky one because Belgium have been poor in this tournament. They've did the first two games, drawn those first two games, eventually coming and beating. Who did they beat in the last game? I can't remember who they beat in the last game. But I know they drew against Egypt. I knew that they drew against Iran. New Zealand is who they beat in the last game. Guys, give me a little bit of credit. Give me a little credit because this is 32 matches, 32 teams. And I'm somehow, some way remembering every single result and the match, and because I watched pretty much most of these games. So, but to be able to remember them off the fly, off the top of my head, is a tricky subject. So bear with me as I try to piece together every single result and what happened in every game. It was a lot of matches to watch and a lot of things going on. So Belgium haven't been impressive. Good one against New Zealand, but New Zealand are not a tough team to beat, in my opinion. Senegal, tough against France and then against Norway, but they made up a lot of goal difference against Iraq. And I look at these two teams. I'm going to pick Senegal because Senegal had a tougher group than Belgium. And overall, they still looked somehow better than Belgium did in the group stage. So Senegal, to me, I think Senegal has a lot of the things that will hurt Belgium. Like those counter-attacking capabilities, those pacey forwards, that can hurt Belgium. Belgium are not a strong defensive team. They're not quick. They're not athletic. It's going to be tough for Belgium to beat Senegal. So I think Senegal will win that match. This is a good game as well. Brazil versus Japan. I'm going to edge Brazil here. Emphasis on edge. I think Japan were very, very good in the group stage against Sweden, against Netherlands, and obviously against Tunisia. But Brazil, good wins against Haiti. Good win against, can't remember the other team, but they drew against Morocco. But I think Brazil have too much firepower. I think Japan, on the eye, can play good football. They can trouble Brazil, but Brazil have too much firepower. They have too much an attack. I think that will be enough to see them over the top against Japan. And Vinicius Jr. is on fire right now, so that will be an interesting matchup. Ivory Coast versus Norway. First of all, Norway resting their entire team because they wanted to avoid playing. I don't even know. It was either they were going to play Ivory Coast or Ecuador. Whatever the case may be, those were two difficult matches. I think you probably would you have preferred to play Ecuador against Ivory Coast? I'm not sure, but I do think Ivory Coast are a strong team. Like they're a very, very strong team. Maybe they don't have the striker that can put away those chances. Ange Boni's a decent player, but he's not at that level yet. So that might be a trouble for Ivory Coast. I think Norway having Erling Haaland is such a huge. It's literally the tiebreaker here. I think both teams are very, very balanced in all regards. But that guy, when you have a player like that, a top 5 player, top 3 if you want to say, you just have a chance to always win a match like this. And that's why I'm going to put them over Ivory Coast because of him and him alone. If he plays to his best, if they feed him, Norway has every chance to go through. But it's going to be difficult. But I'm going to go with Norway, just edging him. Mexico, Ecuador. Mexico looked very good in the tournament. They looked very very impressive. Wins against South Africa, wins against South Korea, and then also winning the last match as well. I think with the crowd and the momentum and how they've been playing, I just think Mexico will see off Ecuador. I think Ecuador struggle to take chances. A lot of shots in Ecuador's matches against what was it? Was it Curacao? I think it was Curacao, right? What nation was it? Might have been Curacao. A lot of shots in that match. That just told me everything I need to know. In qualifications, they didn't score too many goals. They didn't concede a lot of goals either. But I think now in this stage of the World Cup, it's going to be about, can you get just one goal? Can you get one goal and kind of just defend it? If Ecuador score first, I think they'll win. But I don't think they'll score first. I don't think they'll score first. I think Mexico will score first, and that will see them over the line and win this match. It's going to be a very very narrow win, but I think Mexico will win and beat Ecuador. England versus the DR Congo. Congo, I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you. To make it this far is an incredible achievement. First time ever in the country's history. Incredible achievement and performance in the group. Uh, Obviously holding Portugal, playing well against Uzbekistan as well, playing decently against Colombia. You lose that game, but Colombia are a great team. England have been generally poor, in my opinion. I think they didn't impress me outside of the game against Croatia. Against Ghana, it was poor. Against Ghana, it was poor, and also against Panama, it was poor. But they won two of those games. They drew one, but it wasn't pretty to watch. So, but I'm still gonna pick England because I think having guys like Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham, it factors a lot into my thinking. So I'm gonna pick England to win this match. Argentina, Cape Verde. Cape Verde, listen, impressive, impressive against Spain, impressive against Uruguay, impressive against Saudi Arabia. Three draws. But Argentina have three wins, and this team is scary. The way they played against the likes of Austria, the way they played against Algeria, they're just Jordan. They're just too good. So Argentina are gonna win this game. That was probably the quickest one so far that I've seen in this tournament. Australia versus Egypt. Now I said Australia didn't really impress me. I mean they beat Turkey in the opener against the U.S. I think they were very, 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 very poor against Paraguay. I think they were also. It wasn't impressive. Like they haven't impressed me at all. That Turkey game was the one impressive match I've seen them play. But outside of that, I wasn't really impressed by Australia and the slides. I think Egypt, what they did against Iran, the good draw. What they did against Belgium, and what they did against New Zealand. Egypt has showed me enough to believe that they would beat Australia. Having a guy like Mo Salah, like I mentioned with Holland and Norway, having a guy like Mo Salah factors into a lot. Like that means a lot. So I'm going to pick Egypt over Australia because of a guy like Salah. And also, a little bit of talent with Marmoush and the way Zico has played as well. Imam Ashur, I haven't gotten that same feeling from Australia's players. Guys like Irakundis is the first game I haven't really seen much of him. So I'm going to go with Egypt in this match. Switzerland versus Algeria is a tough one. I think Switzerland were very, very, very good outside of the first match in the tournament. Who was Switzerland's first match against? I can't remember exactly who was against, but I remember that was the match that they drew. They had a lot of chances, a lot of shots. They drew that match. I wasn't too impressed by Switzerland in that first opening match, but ever since then, I think they were very very impressive. They were very very good. So I do think that Switzerland will win this game. Let me see. Let me just make sure who that first match was against. That first match was against Qatar. They beat Bosnia. They beat Canada. But that first match kind of gave me some cause for concern. But Algeria win against Jordan. Difficult match, obviously, against Argentina. Difficult match as well against Austria. I'm going to add Switzerland in this regard because I think they have more of one, a cohesive unit, and then two, I just think they have more well, not overall talent. I think Algeria has a lot of talent. I think Switzerland have a more cohesive unit, and they have more ways to hurt you than I think Algeria does. I think Algeria will rely on a lot of individual talent, likes of Maza, Chaibi, Mares. I think that is where they might excel against Switzerland. But Switzerland are such a good, well-drilled team and a cohesive unit that I think, and we saw them in the Euros against France, give them trouble. Switzerland are a very good team. So I think they will edge it and they will win and move on to round 16. And lastly, Colombia versus Ghana. Colombia winning a group with Portugal is a crazy, impressive achievement. Beat the brakes off Uzbekistan. Also, beat Congo. Very, very impressive group phase from them. Ghana, it was a difficult group. Your second favorites to England, obviously, and also Croatia. So drawing England was a great result. They could have actually won that game because that penalty should have been given to Ghana. If they scored that goal, I don't think England come back and win. However, I'm going to edge Colombia here. Actually, not really edge. I think Colombia are a much better team. But what Ghana possess is a team spirit. They're difficult to beat. But I do think Colombia are such a good team. And the way they performed against Portugal told me everything I need to know. It told me that they're just a much better team than I anticipated. I knew they were good. I predicted them to be maybe the second best team in South America. I still think they might be the second best team in South America. I think overall as a team, they're the second best team. I think Brazil obviously have more talent, but as a team, they're really, really good, really, really strong. I'm going to take Colombia to over Ghana in this fixture. So just a quick recap of everything I've decided. I decided Germany will beat Paraguay. I've decided that France will beat Sweden. Canada will beat South Africa. Netherlands will edge it against Morocco. Portugal will beat Croatia. Spain will beat Austria. USA will beat Bosnia and Herzegovina. Senegal will beat Belgium. Brazil will beat Japan. Norway will beat Ivory Coast. Mexico will beat Ecuador. England will beat the Democratic Republic of Congo. Sorry to my homeboy. I know he's not going to be happy to hear that. Argentina will beat Cape Verde. Egypt will beat Australia. Switzerland will beat Algeria. And Colombia will beat Ghana. Those are my 16 teams progressing to the round of 16. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts about what you think will happen in the round of 32, who you have going forward, who you have winning, maybe the whole thing. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all very, very soon. Peace out.